Yeah, morning everyone. Namaskar, and thank you for this opportunity. When Cafe Mutual approached me to say that why don't you talk about referrals, it's a pretty easy topic to talk about. It's easy to say, but very, very, very difficult to actually implement. So I gave it a little bit of thought in terms of what should I do, what should I present to this August gathering, and I'm so glad to see a full house out here today morning. Obviously, when the markets go up and down, one thing good about this kind of conference is it is teaching you the tricks of the trade or helping you get some points to develop your business rather than just mull about what's happening in the market today. I think that's very important. So when I thought of referrals and I looked at my experience and what can we actually do, I just put a few slides. But most important, I thought let's start with some data. That's critical because all of you know referrals are important. When I talk individually to many of you, आप लोग सब कहते हैं कि मेरा सिर्फ मैं तो नया client acquire नहीं करता हूँ. I only go through referrals. That's what you tell me. But how many of us do it in a very systematic and scientific manner is what we need to understand. So let's just look at this statistics, and this is quite compelling. And this is of course taken from Harvard Business Review and research, various other research studies. And what we see out here is 92% of the consumers actually trust people when they come from recommended sources or family or friends. I think this is very, very important, and hence कि आपके अगर existing clients हैं and they give you referrals, I think those kind of successes which are there will be far more than any other. But if you look at the people who get referred, they stay longer, their retention rate is much more, they don't get swayed, they don't go to other sources for information, and generally about 2/3 of the new business of a successful advisor or a distributor come in from referral marketing. So this is how important the referral marketing is. Now the interesting part is that this is the only slide which has figures. There are no graphs, there are no figures, but I'm going to try and talk to you about what I believe is something which will help us in our future. And I think this is the most important thing, connecting with clients. Many of us, when we get introduced to a new relationship, we try and make the first meeting transactional. There is no connect with the client. Maybe 1, 2, or 3 meetings. If the meetings are not transactional in nature, but understanding the client, understanding the needs of the client, understanding what the client is coming from, the background of the client, helps us understand the risk profile. मैं क्यों ये कहना चाहता हूँ? क्योंकि बहुत सारे लोग हमें कहते हैं कि आप नहीं मैं तो हाई रिस्क लेने के लिए तैयार हूँ, मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, देखो मेरे whoever has referred him, ऐसा कि उन्होंने बहुत हाई रिस्क लिया था, इक्विटी में निवेश किया था, and he has done very well in life. I don't mind taking a high risk, and just assume that he had invested in July or August, and now you are having a conversation with him in March. You know what has happened to his or her portfolio, and suddenly it goes out of the window. So if the background of the person is such that while talking or conversing to him, you understand and you realize that actually he is not a very big risk taker, advising him at that point of time, and hence connecting with the client and not making it a transactional relationship. Because if you make the first meeting a transactional relationship, the chance of you succeeding on a long-term basis is that much low. So that's very, very important that you have different kinds of clients. Each one has his or her risk profile, each one has his or her background, personality, the way they have been brought up, the way they have encountered life, and all those go into the decision making of what they would like to do in the future. While aspirations are great, it is important to know the client before getting into any kind of transactions. This is what I meant by understanding them better. And this is, I think, the most important part, and I'm going to dwell about it. You know, there is this rule, thumb rule in our industry. We say 100 minus age of the investor is the equity to fixed income ratio. Now, I actually had learned this when I was young, and now I have thrown this in the waste paper basket. Okay, and let me tell you why. This is a good thumb rule for generalization, but it cannot be to a specific. I was in Goa, and I met this gentleman who was 63 years old, recently retired. He used to run a business. He had handed over the business to somebody else. And I started by going and selling a product to him, and soon realized that this gentleman had sold a business, made lots of money. His one son was in the US, doing very well, and he now wanted to have excitement in his life because he had worked very hard. So all that he was doing was day trading, okay, and short-term investments, playing the market, and he was okay. He used to blow up 100 crores in this kind of activity. And he told me, what are you trying to sell me? I'm a high risk taker. Don't give me this gyan of 100 minus 63, so only 38% should be in equity. So suddenly my perspective changed, and I could then talk to him about small caps, I could talk to him about thematic funds, I could talk to him about other products, I could talk to him of what's happening in the industry. It's not just talking about your products, it's generally what's happening in the industry. If you don't have a knowledge about a particular product which he or she has been offered, try and get information about that product. I think it is so very important. You cannot be a master of everything, but everything can be learned or understood by talking to somebody else. There is no harm in telling a client, I don't know, but I will come back to you. Go back, study what the client had asked you, come back to him or come back to him with a professional who understands that and talk to him. I think that is so very, very important that we do. So understanding clients is so critical, and understanding the background to them is equally very, very important. Guiding them in the right direction. And this is a story I'd like to share, wherein, again, all the examples that I'm going to tell you are people I have encountered in my life. And there's this client who wanted to invest in a very high risk product, and he had the money. So he could easily invest that 1.5 crore that was required to invest in that high risk product. So there was no problem from that perspective. The issue was that this product had a lock-in of 7 years, +1 +1. And that +1 +1 extension could have been at the cost of the client, which means that the money was locked in for a long period of time. Somebody had to tell the gentleman that this is a good product, it's high risk, you understand that, but do you know that you cannot get your money back under any circumstances for such a long period of time? And you're guiding them. You're not saying, no, don't buy this because this is bad, or don't buy this because this is a bad product. That's not what the conversation is. The conversation is, yes, this is high risk, but are you aware of X, Y, Z? So guiding them in the right direction. Another story I'd like to tell you out here is I had gone to a MD of a very big company. He used to feature on the Economic Times front page. And he was being sold a product which was not any mutual fund, it was some other product. And he had invested in a product, and he was very happy because at that point in time the market had grown 50% over that period of time since when he invested. So he said, haven't I made a lot of money? And then I had to tell him that, sir, you made good money, your returns are close to 50%, which is what the market has given, but your initial 10 lakh rupee investment is today 6,32,000. That's because the product that he had invested in had 55% of upfront charges. Those were 10 years back story I'm telling you, where we had those kind of products. Okay, now what are you trying to do? You're telling them to move in the right direction. And then he got very upset with me, saying, what is this? I was not told. And when I entered his cabin, and to have a discussion. मैंने पहले चीज उनको ये बोला था कि मेरे प्रोडक्ट के चार्जेस के बारे में आपको जानकारी है क्या? And he said, no, I am ready to sign the paper. Okay, so then I have to remind him the reason. So our job as distributors, as manufacturers, is to guide people in the right direction. I think it's extremely important to show the people what are the pitfalls, what are the positives, both when it comes to talking about environment, talking about product selling, talking about whatever it is. So guiding them, it's like a compass, right? You want to go to the east, you take the help of a compass and you show which is east direction. You don't tell somebody to go roundabout. So that's something which is very important. And this is something which I really believe in. And I would just like to share this with you and why those different clients are connected with a thread. Now, all of us, let's say, have 100 families that we advise or give products to. We talk to them about financial planning. We do various things with them. Now, do we leverage these families and help one family do business with another family of us? So just assume that you have a businessman who's into manufacturing of gift items and doing very well. And you have another family whose son or daughter is getting married. And those people obviously will be looking at gifting. You say, sir, would you need any help in this? Because I have this great client of mine who's been there with me for 15, 20 years. Would you like, I can connect you with him. It will maybe help you. Now look at it. You're not doing a transactional relationship for your benefit, but you're helping the client. Or you're helping that client by telling him that so-and-so is looking at a person to help him and I think you can help him. Why don't you do? And if those two get along and they do business together, both those parties remember you for that. So connecting our clients with each other, understanding them in detail in terms of their business, profession. Somebody is going on a holiday. Yeah, everyone, all of us go on holiday. And you know that your client has a homestay in that village. Can you connect him saying that, sir, he has a beautiful 100-year homestay in that village in Kerala. Would you like to explore? It's not too much of a trouble. But when you move out of that transactional relationship and get into knowing more about your clients, these connections that we have can make it much easier and much better. And that's how the clients then say, okay, I would like to tell 3 of my friends to work with this person because he or she is helping me not just in my financial planning, but also helping me enhance my business. And that's what referral marketing is. And this is my second last slide. Can I just have a show of hands? How many of you ask for referrals? Okay, everyone has raised a hand really, or 85%. How many of you do it scientifically or is it a conversation, sir? आप मुझे कोई referral दे सकते हैं क्या? Who has it scientifically done? Scientifically. Okay, so this is the trick which I'm going to share with you. I learned this from one of my senior colleagues in another company, and this is what they used to follow. Say after a year or 18 months of servicing a client and the client is very happy with you, you actually take out a card which you have made. Like a visiting card, you make visiting cards. This is a referral card you take out. And you say referred by, you put the name of the gentleman, and you actually sit in front of him and say, sir, would you like to give me the reference? I'd like to note it. No, before that you have a conversation with him saying that, are you happy with my service, etc., etc. And then when he says, yes, sir, can you give me reference? And you have your pen ready in your hand, noting it down. And that person now is forced virtually to give you a reference. No, I'll wait. No problem. I can wait 5 minutes. You can think. And actually jot down those 3 names or 5 names with the phone number and store that as a card, like a business card that you have. And the last slide of mine is please talk to your clients about potential risk. Many of us don't talk about this. Even this photo has a barrier, but you can see how weak the barrier is. Just imagine you want to take a selfie leaning against this barrier. What can happen? Right? So it is so important that we talk about this. Very crucial. Obviously, as we are in the mutual fund world, we need to talk about compliances, disclaimers. So please do. Thank you so much for listening to this.